Welcome back to Crypto Finder TV. You're watching video games in the blockchain. We've been joined by a very special guest in the studio today. This is Jeremy Ray, aka Junglist, aka the managing editor of fandom.com. And mate, we always start with every new guest to ask, what have you been playing, especially over the Chrissy break, a bit of time off? Yeah,
a little bit of a time off. I like to delve into the indie games when I have a bit of a break and I can actually play stuff for fun. So I was playing a bit of Below.
Oh yeah.
If you've seen that one, it's like a sort of top-down, really atmospheric. Some are calling it a Souls-like. It's a little bit like that. The combat system's a little bit like Souls, but you just delve deeper and deeper into a dungeon. And it's more about survival than anything else. There's a little bit of combat, but you need to find all the right materials to...
So Below was coming and coming, wasn't it? That was the game that's been kind of coming for so long.
You know, it was in danger of being Game Informer's first cover game that like never came out.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's one of the few indie games they have on the cover. And it had been years since it's been on the cover, and we started to wonder, like, is it actually going to...
Because Microsoft was showcasing it at E3 and like 3-4 years ago or something like that. It's been their next big indie hit.
Yeah, I only felt good about it at this last E3 last year when it was playable and it was looking really good. So it was pretty definite. It was like, all right, this is coming out pretty soon. And it felt good. So
if you had to give it a score from what you've played so far, what would you say?
Oh, you know, I played until, and people who have played Below will know how small this is, but I've only played down to like the 4th level, which is not very far. So like, and then once I got to that point, I was like, I'd rather look at people on Reddit beat this game than actually beat it myself, just because it's like, it's really good. I love the atmosphere. There's a lot to love about it, but it does take a lot of time, and there's a lot of retreading your old steps, even though there's a lot of shortcuts in the game. So I was kind of like, just in terms of a game that respects my time, I'd probably watch other people beat it and solve all the mysteries and enjoy it that way, as opposed to sort of sitting there for 10 hours a day doing it myself.
Maybe that just shows how old we are, how much we got flogged playing AAA games during the 2000s. I did the same thing. I spent my time playing indie games. I caught up on some VR, a lot of Nintendo Switch indie, and then around that, just Zelda. I just can't stop playing
Zelda. Stop Zelda. I did a bit of Valkyria Chronicles on the Switch.
Oh yeah?
Just time sync? Yeah, absolutely. It's and you know, you can kind of pick it up and put it down as well. Most of the way through that, it's pretty good.
I'm actually up for my next big one, which is going to be the second Metro game.
Oh yeah.
Because I played the first one, loved it. Third one's out in like 2 months, so I need to knock that second one over.
Yeah, they did a smart little PR thing. They sent me the book.
Oh really?
Metro. I thought that was good. You know, get people into the universe that way.
Huh?
Yeah. They should probably do the same thing with The Witcher. Although The Witcher needs no promotion, I guess. It's just
no.
Yeah.
Or Cyberpunk, as it turns out. Mate, you guys have done some content on fandom around blockchain gaming. You know, what is it that's been kind of intriguing you about this emerging space?
I guess for me, true ownership has always sort of really interested me. I'm sort of big into writing about loot boxes and gambling in games and stuff like that. I have sort of strong opinions in that space. So the idea of true ownership kind of straddles that a little bit.
Yeah.
True ownership of your items and being able to trust the rarity of items and collectability and stuff like that. The possibility of either servers going defunct or you being banned and all of a sudden not having access to the game and stuff like that is kind of interesting to me. So yeah, I pay a lot of attention to those kinds of blockchain companies. I'm less excited about the ones that are springing up purely around gambling and skins and that sort of thing. I'm kind of against all that. I'm kind of against unregulated gambling for kids.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of like what Valve's doing with loot boxes and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm more so excited about the other side where like Engine's multiverse, and I'm really jazzed about you know, on the development side, being able to make a game that's compatible with like a blockchain format, and you know, you're just interpreting the variables differently, but it's like if I have a character with 10 strength in one game, I can take that character to another game and it just interprets 10 strength in a different way, but it's still useful and valuable and stuff like that. So yeah, the multiverse with Engine is very interesting to me, and all the possibilities around that. Yeah,
there's been a lot going on around loot boxes at the moment. Obviously, there's been some talk of the Australian government getting involved, or some change to the classifications here. I've been doing a bit of content around that as well, and it definitely always rolled back to blockchain as being a potential solution for that. You know, just kind of like at least let people know what the rates of reward are for the things that they're doing, and actually have ownership of the assets they're actually paying for at the end of the day, and what they can then go and sell on or not sell on. At least they've got some sort of control. That seems like definitely a space where blockchain games can really make a difference in the current environment in gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the two kind of meet there when it comes, like, comparison-wise, they sort of meet at trading cards, because it's like a lot of people confuse loot boxes with trading cards. There's some key differences. Like true ownership is one of them. Like when you have a box of trading cards, there's no limit on how you sell that on to your friends or something like that. You own it, you can sell it. There's also a sort of a philosophical difference with like trading cards. They've manufactured a certain amount, the rarity is decided, and then they send that out to the world. It can't be tweaked after that fact, which is philosophically different than buying something and at the point of sale a random number generator decides what you get, which to me is more like gambling. Yeah, the blockchain solution brings that a little bit more towards trading cards, which is kind of like, it's relevant in the debate, because when we talk about regulating loot boxes, trading cards and everything similar to that, or any kind of like mystery box that you might win at the pub or something like that, all of that also gets dragged into the debate. Like when we talk about regulating anything where you're putting up money for a random result, people bring in like, well, what about Magic the Gathering? Like, is that included as well? So,
or Pokemon cards, which is the one that I always get referred to me, and my kids playing Pokemon cards now. But the thing is, and it's the classic thing, is that he gets like, my son gets like 6 or 7 of the same card. He goes down and has a ball with it because he can trade it, he can pass it on, he can sell it. He's got some sort of asset there that he can then utilise, even though he's got 7 of the same thing. Which I guess is, you know, the classic difference there between what we grew up with as kids, whether it's football cards, baseball cards, wherever you are in the world, you know. But I think, yeah, that's definitely one space. And the Engine multiverse you brought up as well, it's really interesting. It kind of reminds me a lot of the way that amiibos work, in that you put your amiibo into the game, and depending on what game it is, you get a different type of reaction in the game to it. And
that's really interesting in a speedrunning context as well, because I was doing a story on speedrunning recently, and it's like, you know, if you're doing Breath of the Wild and you have all these different amiibos that can give you, like, drop things into the world, it's like, is that cheating?
Yeah, like, right.
Do we need to have a new category or something like that?
So it's like when you're watching a DJ mix or something, and you've got another guy there flipping the records, or you've got someone else just dropping amiibos in and out, in and out.
Yeah, like if you had someone, if you're a DJ and you had someone sampling in little, you know, beer, 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 like, is that cheating?
Yeah, well, I guess the time's a time, isn't it? That's the assets put in front of you. But yeah, that kind of Engine multiverse concept's really good. And, you know, as well as that, Engine's doing so much other great stuff around pushing that blockchain space. And the quality of the games that we're seeing at Engine multiverse, there's a couple of ones that are kind of like the classic arcadey iOS stuff, but it definitely feels like it's been putting the gameplay first. You know, and one of the stories we spoke about today on the show is Age of Rust, and that's just released a gameplay trailer. It's made by Unreal Engine. It looks glorious. It looks like a game. And then the blockchain's kind of in the background, which I think is a better way forward. Engine seems to be driving that. Yeah,
that's kind of the way it needs to be. Like, I know you were mentioning before, like you like a lot of game, and I see this as well, like a lot of game companies promote themselves as like a crypto game. Yeah, I do think it's really important for it to be a good game first, and then have the crypto sort of underlying. And I think there's a couple things there. Like, Engine is kind of naturally doing that because their strategy is integrating into the Unity store and the Unreal system, and just making it really easy for developers to have blockchain in their games, just like a couple of clicks. And if they want to delve deeper into it, then they can do that. Whereas I see other sort of blockchain companies that they have these giant claims on their websites, like, we are going to create a game-making engine, and we're going to compete with the likes of Unity and Unreal and GameMaker and Godot and stuff like that. And it's like, no, you are not. Like, you are not going to enter the space where these strong competitors are. They've been going for years and years, and you're just going to create like a...
Every second press release I get starts with world's first. And you read the press release and you go, well, it's the world's first time I've read this today.
Yeah, that's right.
The same press
within
release
this 5 minutes, Yeah. I think Engine's got the right strategy there, just in terms of like, okay, we're not gonna make a new Unity. We're just going to integrate with them, and that's the way to go for whether it's blockchain or whether it's anything else. Like just integrating with the existing game engines is there's already, even if someone doesn't want to go with Unity, like there are already good free solutions out there. Like Godot is pretty good.
Yeah.
So why compete in that space, you know? So yeah, I like what they're doing there, and also I think the recent thing with Artifact kind of proves that you need to have a good game first and then build the blockchain. You know, it needs to be underlying or around it. Even though Artifact didn't have blockchain really in it, but the values that Artifacts were built on are kind of the same. They wanted to be very, very cautious with balancing the game, because they wanted the variables to be immutable, and they wanted the values of the cards to be very slow changing. They wanted the market to decide all of those values, not the company, which are good goals to have, but unfortunately the game was a little bit unbalanced when it came out, and they needed to do a bit of a 180 on that, because things weren't going so well for them. Within a week they had dropped out of the top 50 played games on Steam, and this is a Valve-backed game, and they had all that real estate on the front of Steam. So you know, you usually bet on Valve when it comes to those sorts of things, but it was there were a few heroes in that game that were very strong, and you needed to have those heroes, and there was one meta deck that you kind of needed to be playing, and it wasn't fun. It's like, you've got these collectible cards, but what are you going to do with them, you know? So the game comes first, then all the other stuff later. I think that kind of proves it.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about Valve a bit more in a sec, but I mean, onto that idea of putting the game first. We've kind of seen this with a lot of emerging techs over the years. If you look back at the Wii, when the Wii first came out and it boomed, and then all of a sudden we saw these like kind of gimmicky games that had Wii in the title, and just kind of standard. When the mobile stuff kind of first hit, there were just so many hits and misses in in-app purchases and meters and all that, and then eventually kind of the games actually filter through and then use that ecosystem a bit better. And we're seeing that, I think, with the blockchain games to begin with. We're seeing all these games come out that have to spell out the fact that they're crypto kitties, or you know, they're war for crypto, or there's something to do with that, and then they've got to spell out that we're on a blockchain and we're doing this. And it's like, well, you know, that's not going to be the big success stories. The big success stories are going to be the games that never put crypto or blockchain at the front of mind, and just a kick-ass experience. And then they go, oh, how do you do it? And you go, oh, we use blockchain. And that's where you kind of find it.
Absolutely. And then it's an added plus. Yeah, it should be like a few dot points on the back of the box. And then not even the dot point not being crypto, the dot point being the benefits of crypto. Selling the sizzle, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of the sort of natural genres that might agree with a game that uses a tech like that are very hard to compete in, like collectible card games and stuff like that. Like making a competitor to Hearthstone, like an indie competitor to Hearthstone, super hard at the moment. Like they do the job really well, you know. So
and constantly releasing new content. So there's no way to get away from it.
Like the crypto itself is not enough of a differentiating factor. Like it's cool underlying tech, and there are benefits to it, but it needs to have a game design differentiator as well. Like you need to be something.
You need to be able to do something rad in interface, like, you know, like trade it with a friend and suddenly get something out of it, and just go, oh, it's just part of the interface, it's part of the experience, but oh, it's using blockchain to do that, you know, and then it's integrated. You mentioned Valve before. Steam's something that we've spoken about a few times on the show. We're starting to see it, I guess, come under threat. I know it's got like 150, 160 million users. It's got, I'm looking at it the other day actually, 780 million games or something on Steam now, 480 million of which have never been played by anyone, but anyway. It's a massive entity, and it's been, since 2003, the biggest place for any PC gamer to go. But now we're looking at the likes of kind of Wax breaking out. We're looking at Engine's going to have an Engine marketplace where they're going to start seeing stuff. And obviously the big one being Epic Games, launching the Epic Games store through the launcher that we play Fortnite through. You know, like how do you, I know you're big into your PC games. How do you feel Steam's approaching this? Do you think Steam needs to kind of start looking at this tech? Do you see Steam hitting blockchain in the future? Like, what do you reckon? I
think it would definitely be on its radar. I don't know if it's going to do any sort of large-scale adoption anytime soon. I think, you know, it would be on their radar purely because they'd be interested in stuff like that, and because of the culture that they have at Valve. You know, they would have people looking at it for sure and seeing how it would benefit them. And Gabe himself would be like, "Oh, this is cool. You know, could we play around with this?" But yeah, I'm not sure. I think like they are the giant at the moment, the sleeping giant who doesn't need to do anything.
Yeah.
All of the other stuff that's, I mean, there have been other stores for a while, like there have been like itch.io and Humble and things like that, and they're not even making a dent, and they're not meant to. Like itch.io is just for indies. Even Epic with like, I mean, they've made about as strong a start as you can possibly make for a store. I still would not describe that as a threat to Steam. I would say maybe over time, like it could become a de facto home for indies with the 12% cut they're taking as opposed to 30%. I think maybe Steam could be persuaded in the future to be pushed in that direction. And obviously, like a few blockchain stores have, they're taking smaller cuts like 5% or 1% or something like that. But even still, like I think, like it's not going to be that much of a threat to Steam's business model. I think the creator of Super Meat Boy said it the best, where it's like, we just need these other stores to exist for Steam to give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's their role at the moment, and that's the role of like indie exclusivity on the Epic Games Store. So when we see things like the factory one, I forget the name of it exactly, or like Super Meat Boy Forever is going to be exclusive on there for a while, Hades and stuff like that. So these are not games that are going to make or break, you know, anything. But if in the future the Epic Games Store becomes kind of like a great place for indies to go for a year and do like a timed exclusivity deal, I think that's totally fine. I don't think that hurts anyone. I think platform exclusivity can be bad for the consumer, but if it's all you have to do is create an account here, that's fine. Like and the indies get treated better, that's fine. And if it pushes Steam a little bit over that way, then that's fine.
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting little dynamic, though, isn't it? Because, like you said, Valve's sitting there. It's got power. It's got plenty of power and plenty of reach. But Fortnite has passed 200 million, which means a significant number, even a comparative number, of people that of install base through that launcher. They're offering a better cut. They seem to be doing a more curated job of what they're putting on there. Like most of the games that are on there, with maybe the exception of Hello Neighbor, are pretty damn good looking games. And on top of that, they've got Unreal Engine at the back, which is backing a lot of games across across Steam as well. And how that plays into it, how they manipulate that to kind of push a few people the other way. And I was surprised that Valve gave away the secondary market so easily to Wax. You know, like it was Opskins it was all going through Valve. Valve kind of had a bit of a handle on that. Then they just banned them, kicked them off, let Wax take a hold. It's a $50 billion market or something, you know. So like there's a few plays there that just don't make sense. You got to wonder what's going on, or if they even care, or like what their next move is. Like, I think like you can definitely see some strategic thinking from Epic, and they're doing exactly the right thing, which is what Valve did a long time ago, which is, you know, we have this killer game. How do we turn that into a platform? So obviously, like Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike Source, you know, that was launched at the same time as Steam, and you know, the rest is history. And that's exactly what Fortnite's doing now with the Epic Games Store. It's like, how do we turn this into a platform? They're looking beyond Fortnite. They're realizing it's not going to be around forever. And they're going to be around and kicking and super strong by the time Fortnite is gone. So yeah, I can't say what's going on in the minds of the heads of Valve at the moment, whether they have something planned or whether they just don't care. Or, well, I mean, the big tie, and one of the main reasons I've always talked about on GxB is because Epic Games as a studio does have a connection to the blockchain space. You know, they have partnered with Magna Chain, who works on specific blockchain, has a specific gaming-based blockchain, and we're also seeing, you know, a lot of movements in that Fortnite space in terms of skin ownerships, the battle pass. Now we've got creative mode as well, so the ability for people to create things and pass them on. There's a using kind of 32 key crypto style codes and the passing of those to other players. So I guess what you're typing in and stuff like that. So they're definitely leaning towards that space. They're moving towards that space. If the Epic Games then steps up again and uses the blockchain to allow things like true ownership and resale of games and in-game item ownership and ownership of creative games like creative mode and Fortnite, which is going off, and they're putting a lot of effort into that. You know, then that's also interesting. And if Valve continues to ignore that, and then Epic Games really starts to open up on that, a very big point of difference with a title that's selling like just continue to sells, or continue to get downloaded anyway.
They're really good at integrating all sides of it as well, like with the creator mode, like integrating that into Fortnite, the game, and having that space reserved for it. And on the development side, like every like that sort of incorporating crypto like that appeals to everyone, like the true ownership. It appeals to the developers, it appeals to gamers, it appeals to the esports stars.
And the platform.
And the platform, the
I'm
collectors.
Sure they'll take a cut than anything, you know.
Yeah, and they've thought about how all that integrates. Like the sort of fee for using Unreal Engine is already accounted for in that 12% royalty that they're taking. Whereas if you're using Unity, then obviously you have to pay Unity's fee and then the 12%. So they're making an attractive proposition for developers to just have an all-in-one sort of place there. It's like, you want to play with blockchain as well? All right, we can do that here. And
it's hard to think that you would launch a online PC gaming store in 2019 effectively and not incorporate blockchain and all they can offer in terms of the saving on fees, international transactions, the speed of it all, the reporting of it all. You know, like when Microsoft adapted blockchain into its royalty payments mid last year, you know, it came to light, but before that they were using Excels. And it was taking 30 days or something for someone to manually sit down and write down the royalties of a game on an Excel sheet and get it across to a dev.
Yeah.
So it's 30 days before the developer can even go, do we make money? Do we not make money? Should we make DLC? Should we not make DLC? You know, like, and all those important decisions, getting instant information, instantly paid, and that just saves a ton of money. So to ignore that and open a store nowadays makes no sense. And then once you're there and you've got a blockchain, then all the other things open up as well. So
yeah, I think I remember some indie devs were saying it took like 2-3 months to get information about their sales on Xbox Live.
That. Yeah. Did we do well?
Yeah, as opposed to like 1 or 2 days. Which
you got the rent guy knocking on the door and everything like that.
Yeah, that would be stressful. Like, yeah.
and one of the other big spaces, as well as PC gaming, that I know you're really into, is eSports.
Sure.
Now, eSports is another kind of very different to what we've been talking about so far, but another big space that seems like it can really benefit from implementing blockchain technology, and it's in the gaming sphere. I mean, have you looked into it all? What do you think about what blockchain eSports might be able to do in the future?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited about how blockchain can affect esports in a non-gambling way, which is, I feel like that's the upfront thing that I say, because so much of it feels like it's going that way, like it's focused on gambling, which to me is kind of unfortunate. Like there's a lot of systems being set up so that people can bet on games. I'm a little like, I'd be more cool with the ones that are about betting on yourself.
Yes.
If you're of an age to do it. But one of my big things is sort of like, you know, a little bit less than 10% of the population of the human race has that sort of vulnerability in their heads that makes them susceptible to gambling addiction. So we need to be very, very wary of that. But I am super excited about, like, you know, making things that are super rare, like, you know, something attached to a team at an event, like taking part in a tournament, like a collectible thing to commemorate that.
Yep.
Which is kind of done in like games like Dota 2 and stuff like that already, but having sort of ownership over that, and having match results recorded and sort of immutable beyond that point. All those kinds of things. Yeah, there's a few different ways that esports will be changed by the blockchain. Yeah, I think, but a lot of it that I see, like when I scroll down, I create guides about blockchain, and I sort of go down the list, and a lot of them seem focused on just gambling.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, I like the smart contracts concept of allowing, you know, players in a tournament to be paid out at completion. I mean, you may have more experience than I have on this particular topic, but I've read a lot about people who just don't get paid or get the big fat novelty check when nothing ever happens, and seeing all those types of things up as smart contracts, but also allowing, I guess, I was reading something today actually about a mob who are starting a tournaments as a service concept, where you can actually go in and kind of set up with your mates. You say you're having a big FIFA session or something like that, and set up with your mates and kind of say, okay, we're all going to throw in, you know, whatever, like 1 Ethereum or something like that. Whoever wins the tournament just gets a, you know, strip payment. So you allowed users to kind of create their own tournaments, as well as companies, as well as non-gaming companies like Red Bull could come in and do like a Skate 4 if it ever comes out. Tournament. You know what I mean? Like that kind of side of it, I think looks really, really interesting.
Yeah, and they've thought about some interesting stuff there as well. Like obviously every, you know, high-profile esports match needs to have a referee, make sure people are not cheating and abiding by whatever the house rules are and stuff like that. So they've thought about that as well. Someone can join who's connected to the network and be the referee for a match like that, and those referees will then be rated on their quality as a referee. You know, and you have to really think about that stuff when it comes to competitive gaming, because people will game the system and people will organize their reporting of someone just to downgrade them and stuff like that. But it looks like those solutions are pretty good. Like the referee gets a little bit of a chunk of the coin just for their activity, and then
and no doubt sponsors and other people that can get involved, and all that stuff's kind of above the line. And there's also guys like Chimera who are building like games that are hosted on the blockchain, you know, which also takes out any sort of cheating, you know, because it's they can't hack into it, they can't do anything like that. It's everything's transparent. So that kind of side of it as well is interesting. I haven't seen too much progress on that, other than the fact that people are trying to take out the servers and make the blockchain the server. Yeah,
that's really interesting. It makes my mind explode as for how it would work, but you know, more power to them. Like if it does happen one day, then it would be great to know that, right? Like,
And the whole universe around it's kind of, I guess, getting a bit more blockchain as well. Like we're starting to see, you know, people able to play Twitch streamers and commentators in crypto. So they that sort of interfaces are starting to integrate blockchain a little bit. Have you heard about Chili's at all?
I've heard about it. I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, so they've got an interesting one where they're doing crowd token-based voting, so that like a big team, and a big esports team can have a massive fan base, and the fan base can buy these Chili's tokens, and then each time they vote on a decision that the team wants, perhaps like say for a loadout or a type of skin or something like that, that's maybe perhaps a bit cosmetic or not so game influencing, then they pay one of their Chili tokens to have a bet and have a say in the way the team is run, which is a really interesting concept, which I could see, we could see that going into choice-based games. Or
absolutely.
Like
I was just thinking, like, how cool would it be if you had like a hero pick attached to, like blockchain voting, like if you were playing Dota 2 and someone wanted, should I pick this person, like should I pick Pudge?
Like, they get two really good players and the audience can choose for them to have someone they're not very used to. So you're really testing skill and ability.
It's Counter-Strike. Like do we rush B or do we rush A?
Or just even have just fans there just throwing in the coins in the pot and just kind of going, okay, like the winner of this take all, this much, when it's all driven on the blockchain, I guess that it all becomes possible.
And it provides like, it's a type of thing that happens, like, and you mentioned Twitch streaming, like it's people do that on Twitch streaming now with like, both pre and post action, where it's like, if you give me this amount, I'll chug this gallon of milk, or maybe like if I get this kill, then I'll have to donate $5 or something like that.
You've seen those guys that eat the Chili's? Speaking of Chili's?
But if you, like, that provides a platform to do it in the esports context as well. Like, if this guy gets a team down, if this guy clutches, chili it up. Like,
Which is kind of what they're doing with Fortnite, isn't it? The Fortnite tournaments, they kind of got like the payouts, and then they've got all these other different tiers of payouts for certain objectives that have been achieved the most amount of times in game. So they're splitting it up, and you can imagine the labor intensity of doing all that manually.
That's an interesting one, because like, and I'll be like, I feel like cryptos and like sort of these kinds of things within the esports space will naturally grow around games that they themselves organically grow, because I don't know, I have this weird thing with esports that are backed by the company that made the game, where it's like it's kind of like if it receives too much first-party support, like there's a few games that would do, like as an example, like maybe Hearthstone or World of Warcraft or something like that, where it's like if Blizzard is paying for all of the flights for people to get to a place, and they're paying for all of the prize money, what happens when all of that money disappears? Like, does it grow as an esport organically still, or does it just kind of go away and it's just a lot of people playing it? And I feel like those aren't the games that the blockchain stuff will grow naturally around. Like, I feel like it's more so going to grow naturally around like games like Counter-Strike, where it's like if there was no first-party support, it would just still keep organically growing, and you just can't stop it. So Fortnite is, you bring up Fortnite, that one's funny to me, because I think that one is like super duper propped up by Epic in terms of an esport. Like, that's very much a like, we need to be an esport kind of situation, where it's not naturally, like it's not really this, it's too much, it's not random, it's not like philosophically random, but there's too much chaos, right? Like,
it's interesting to watch. I've watched a lot too much of Fortnite on YouTube recently, and it's I still can't really get on to what's going on in most of those games. I guess maybe I'd just kind of like to round up your thoughts, Where do you feel blockchain gaming will be by the end of this year, which is it's January 5 right now, or January 10, sorry. Lost a week there somewhere over the holidays.
Yeah, that's a tough
But by December 2019, what do you think the biggest story in blockchain gaming is going to be?
Ooh, I think it's going to be more on the back end, more business model type stuff, like stories that we saw with Microsoft and Ubisoft adopting blockchain and reducing the amount of time that people get to see the reports and improving payment systems. I feel like it's going to be along those lines.
Yep.
It's not exciting to say that, but that would be my serious answer to that question, and then my sort of game design hopeful answer to that question would be I really hope we see games that adopted blockchain sort of after the design of the game, after the prototype was already decided, and then come out with that sort of release where a little bit like we were saying, like, here's the game, it's amazing, it does this, that, and the other. Also, it has these benefits which come from blockchain.
Yeah.
And then I really hope we see those things integrated into something like the multiverse, where it's like, we start to see, because that's when I think like people will look at it and go, okay, I understand the benefits now, where it's like, if I've spent 80 hours in a character in this game here, that's not completely useless if I then bring that over here. I want to start playing this game over here. Well, you've already actually built up a fair, that grinding is no longer useless. So as soon as we see games connecting in that way, that's when we get into a type of game design that we haven't really seen before, right? Like in a type of thinking that we haven't seen before. So, realistically, that might be a little bit further down the track than at the end of this year, but I sure hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I think ownership is the big thing. Ownership is I think it's becoming more and more important for us as a society to start considering the ownership of all digital assets, not just games, but anything that we own digitally, as something that you own. Otherwise we're all going to end up with a whole lot of money thrown at a brick wall and nothing to show for it, which is not good for society in general.
And we have so many services and so many passwords. We have password managers now, right?
God, don't talk to me
so
about
to have a wallet that's like...
Speaking of passwords, my Epic Games launcher gets hacked every night.
Really?
Every night
I
wake up and my password's been changed by someone.
Really?
I just don't have any details on there, thankfully.
I've heard it was bad like that. Do they not have 2FA or something like that?
They do. I've got no reception at my house, so I can't have TFA.
Yeah, I don't have an account yet, so I haven't played Hades yet or anything like that.
I'm hoping that by the end of 2019, we're going to hear a little bit more about xCloud, the stuff that Microsoft's working on, their next kind of service, I guess it is, more than a console. And I want to see Microsoft come out and actually put on a line and say, hey, we're using blockchain as part of this service, because they will be, they already are, but they've been so quiet about it. And you got to look in Azure press releases to find a little small print about how they're using blockchain. And I think it'd be really great to see a major player come out. Like Ubisoft's been really forward with it, but we haven't seen it. It's not in Division 2, or it's not anything, maybe Skull and Bones, I don't know, they haven't brought it forward. But to see like Microsoft, one of the big major players, come out and say, hey, we've got this awesome service and it's running on the blockchain and these are the benefits of it, I think it'll turn a lot of positive heads, and there's a chance that we're going to hear about it's due out, I think, 2020, December 2020, so maybe we might see something announced at E3 or around that period, around Gamescom maybe, and I'm really hoping we see something about blockchain referenced in that.
Yeah, that'd be very exciting. In my talks with Engine, like they've been having meetings with Ubisoft about sort of giving tech advice and stuff like that, and they said it's definitely coming from the Ubisoft side. It's definitely going to be happening.
Engine also suggested to me that EA and THQ Nordic, and they referenced someone else as well, had also been reaching out to them for more info on these things. All those guys have platforms, whether it's Ubiplay or whether it's Origin or whether it's just FIFA Ultimate, that would benefit.
And well done them. Like, imagine if they themselves got, like if Engine was just chosen as the solution for EA, then well done you. Like, you got ahead of the curve and you did it.
Would be against form for EA.
Yeah.
You're most likely to just buy it, destroy it and close it down. But anyway, we'll hope for the best. Mate, it's been a great chat. Thank you so much for joining us on Video Games and the Blockchain. You have to come on again, maybe December 2019. We'll see how we went.
Yeah, we'll look back at this on our predictions. And
All right, thank you very much, guys, and thanks for joining us on Video Games and the Blockchain. We'll see you next week.